Deathloop was such a surprise for me. To be quite frank, I had seen enough of it leading up to its launch that I started to feel fatigue from it already before even playing it. Those exact feelings are exactly why I'm surprised to say that Deathloop was one of the most well thought out stories, in particular to its execution, that I've ever played. While it'll feel familiar to those of you that played the Dishonored series before, it ultimately feels like an investigative Metroidvania covered in the flair of the 1960s. Forgive me if I go shallow on the details here, because Deathloop is a game that should be experienced all on your own with the surprises still intact. You play as Colt Van, a man that wakes up on the beach with no recollection of who they are or why they're here. This all happens while seemingly being stuck in a time loop along with the citizens of Black Reef who, unlike Colt, lose their memories every time the loop repeats itself. Dying in this loop will create a new loop, but the information, intel, and knowledge gained during the prior loop will continue on into the next. In an effort to learn what's going on, why this is happening, and more, Cole continues on through the loop, learning more about himself and the events that transpired before through the investigative work and shootouts in the game. A lot of the more intricate pieces of lore are told through discovering audio and text logs that are reviewed at the end of every mission as retainable information. It's a gameplay loop that might seem meticulous, but in retrospect, comes off as rewarding and one of the better ways to continue to feed new pieces of story to the players for investigative efforts. All of this leads to your mission to take out the various visionaries on Black Isle. They all know that Cole is trying to get them, but in order to take them all out, it all has to be done in the span of a day before the time loop ends and repeats itself. It's a challenging conflict as all these visionaries are scattered across the heavily 1960s themed island's different locations at various points in time. Through your investigation work, you must plan out a perfect time loop, a way to take out each one of these visionaries while maintaining the single day structure, an interesting and rather challenging time constraint. One of these visionaries, Juliana, plays the role of a continuous hurdle in your path. She seems to know you better than you know yourself, thanks to the amnesia. Her relationship and conversations with Colt are reminiscent of a couple bickering in an almost playful manner. It comes off rather charming and continues to be one of the biggest points of interest in the story as you continue to learn more about her and yourself in the process. All in all, Deathloop's story isn't impeccable for what's written on it, but rather how it goes about giving you that information. Its execution is easily one of the most unique in video games, making something that should be repetitive and boring on paper, addicting and riveting. Deathloop's various little sandboxes and the rules they go by make for one of the more interesting and most thought out approaches to game design. When you can literally do anything you want at your own pace, how do you keep something from feeling so repetitive and mundane? Well, I think Arcane figured it out because it's through their progression systems and rewarding gameplay that every run through Deathloop had a purpose and a coinciding reward. It's a game that challenges your critical thinking and investigation skills as you approach each of the handful of sandboxes for any possible leads on why this time loop is happening, who the visionaries are, and how they spend their time during this loop. At the same time, the visionaries know that you're out hunting them, and they don't make things any easier on us to take them out. Each of them has their own superpower that aids them in battle that you can in turn take away from them after taking them out. Each loop operates on a day and night cycle, and you only have a single day before the loop resets. This means that over the course of about 15 to 20 hours, you'll be analyzing the characters moving around, the variables that could change in reaction to how you go about your run, with the end goal being to take out every visionary within the day. These visionaries are superpowered targets, helping to maintain the time loop, and if you want them out, you're going to need to take them out all at once. One of them being Juliana, this woman that plays such an interesting role in your journey. She seems to have some sort of history with Cole, like an old married couple that occasionally fights. They too have this somewhat charm to them as they go back and forth over the radio all while she hunts you down. It's a mechanic that even spins off into a multiplayer option where you can jump online and play as her in other people's games. It's a similar approach to the Dishonored series that I thought was clever. Luckily, if you don't want to have to deal with other human players, you can shut this off to either only be with your friends or simply with an AI controlled instead. Her joining your game is also such a wrench in things that you can't end a mission until you kill her or she kills you. It's a fun cat and mouse game that felt like a mini boss fight in between various runs. Cole also gets progressively more powerful over time. On top of the powers you earn from visionaries, you can enhance their performance using the charged objects you find across the world. In addition, there's the weapon trinkets, which attach to your weapons to help improve your combat skills like ADS times and the range. There are other forms of trinkets as well that help improve Colt's progression specifically, like how quiet they can be when sneaking against an enemy AI, which is honestly some of the dumbest I've found in the video game. Luckily, taking out the enemies again and again isn't really the challenging part, rather it's the puzzle of killing them in a single day, so it's not as detrimental as somewhat like a traditional campaign shooter. Designed with a mix of 1960s furniture and futuristic superpowers, Deathloop feels like an interesting juxtaposition. In many ways it reminds me of the environmental design choices made in Bioshock Infinite that also combine retro designs with future tech. It's a bit of a paradox, but the atmosphere and vibes mesh together beautifully in this sandbox of an adventure. Deathloop is currently a timed exclusive and is only available on PC and PS5. It's easily one of the most demanding games of the generation, putting the PS5 performance somewhere along the lines of an RTX 2070. It's a bit strange because as far as tech goes, it doesn't feel like it pushes that far of an envelope, being a PS5 exclusive. That's not to say it's an ugly game by any means, but the demand it seems to take, along with the performance metrics, feels like something isn't adding up here. There's a total of 3 different visual modes on console, a 30 FPS target with ray tracing turned on, all while featuring a native 4K dynamic resolution that can scale down to 1800p. Then there's the image quality that targets 60 frames per second, but tends to mostly get around 40 to 50 frames per second with the higher 1800p resolution average. Lastly, there's the frame rate performance mode that has a dynamic resolution scale of 1300p to 1440p, and was able to maintain a mostly locked 60 frames per second. I preferred to go with the performance mode for a more smoother experience, though at the cost of resolution. If you're going to want to play this on PC with the best preset, you're definitely going to want at least a current generation card, seeing how much it struggles to run on the PS5. Following the interesting contrast of visuals is the equally as interesting combination of first-person shooter gameplay and some jazz-heavy sax solos that I for the life of me can't really recall if a video game has done that before. It's such a, and I say this with the nicest intent possible, uniquely weird combination. The merging of the blues, jazz, and funk just left a lasting impression throughout the whole game that put me in some good vibes. Running parallel to the great music is the fantastic performance by Jason Kelly, who does a phenomenal job as Colt, accurately capturing his initial confusion and scare during the introduction. Azoima Akaga also does a marvelous job as Juliana, who meshes beautifully with Colt whenever their playful bickering takes center stage. Deathloop will no doubt be remembered for its ability to seamlessly weave together story points through a masterfully planned sandbox that was equally fun to explore as much as it was to learn about. I keep telling myself, Deathloop just doesn't sound like a game I would like on paper. A game where you have to keep exploring the same areas over and over again until you have the right tools to finally beat it. However, it's how it goes about giving you those details while still making each run feel rewarding and worthwhile that ultimately makes the Metroidvania shooter hybrid one of the more brilliant executions of storytelling in a first-person shooter.